Fridays, happy hour is from 4 to 6.
Miss Kennedy, would you get me a medium dry vodka martini?
What address?
Shaken, not stirred.
Hold on. I'm not hearing it right. Hold on. We got it now.
Is there alcohol in this?
Oh, God, honey, no. What kind of mother do you think I am? Why do you want a little bit? Because if you're going to drink, I'd rather you do it in the house.
Make it Suntory time.
Hello, everyone. I hope you are all doing well. I know my channel has been a little in shambles recently, but there's been a lot of life changes, but I have been going to the movies. I have seen 3 awesome films this past week. I'm very excited to discuss them with my guest movie files. And yeah, I know there's also like a ton of movie news regarding Scarlett Johansson in Jurassic Park, and there's Joker 2 news about how it's kind of more of like a jukebox musical. I might get into that a little bit today, but I feel like that will mostly be talked about with the ISO Cubes on Friday during our new time, which is from 12 to about 1:15 on the Bridgers channel. So for now, I'm going to get into the chat and let's see how everyone is doing. Mindless Meat, how's it going? Very nice to see you. Velvet Elvis, how's it going? Very happy to have you here today. Maxfield is at work. Thank you so much for stopping by and joining me. And Laren, how's it going, Laren? I hope you're doing well. Wilkie's Movies and Music. Absolutely thrilled to have you here, as always. Luke is here, and Luke, I will actually be on Luke's channel this evening at 8. That'll be really fun. It's been a while since I've been on that channel, so I'm very excited to partake in a great conversation about movies. So, but until my guest gets here, a few things that, David's here too. So happy to have you here, David, as always. A few things I guess we could discuss. There's been, I guess, a confirmation about Bond, Aaron Taylor Johnson. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I'm kind of excited for him. At least I know that he's put in solid work for so long since Kick-Ass, and I feel like that's something he really wanted to try. And I don't hate the casting. I'll say that. He constantly has tried to put himself into certain franchises that don't really lead him anywhere. It's kind of like Nicholas Hoult. Like I'm happy that Nicholas Hoult for himself got the new Lex Luthor role. I would have preferred probably like Bill Skarsgård or Alexander Skarsgård. But you know what? I'm open to Nicholas Hoult being Lex Luthor. Yeah, he's always been putting in solid work over the years as well. So I kind of feel like there's like such a parallel between Nicholas and Aaron Taylor Johnson. The fact that the Kraven the Hunter film got postponed is a little scary. I don't really even know what the point is of that. Like, did they do that because Madam Web they knew was terrible and they were like, well, let's try to distance ourselves from that and put out Kraven in August of 2024? I don't know. But, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. How do you guys feel about Aaron Taylor Johnson being the new Bond? It's definitely something that is up for discussion. We have, let's see here. Oh, yeah. I do. Yeah. We did play some Guitar Hero the other night. It was fun. It was good. I didn't love all of the songs, and I don't know. I had a much better time playing DDR and Rock Band. I feel like we're more up my alley than Guitar Hero, but you know, who knows? Let's see. Hollow Notes. Hey Tracy, we've got David saying if he is Bond, that is probably the end of his run as Craven. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I don't think you can be into franchises that are that big. But apparently, like Sony feels like I feel like Sony keeps investing their time and being like, this is this Spider-Man character you should know about, and then they do nothing with that character, and they don't ever actually plan on doing more movies, which is ridiculous. So with Craven, I feel like this is absolutely going to be a one-off as well. Like, there's no end game with Sony and Spider-Man. I know there's a lot of talk right now about Spider-Man 4 is going to start shooting in the fall, and that's why they have pushed back Euphoria. I think Euphoria being pushed is much more complicated than that. I think you have not only you have three superstars of Euphoria right now. You have Sydney Sweeney, Jacob Elordi, and Zendaya. And I think that if the pandemic did not happen, I think we would have had season 3, last year. But this year is everything's changed. Everyone's careers are completely different. And if you look at what Sydney Sweeney has done in the past 4 months, that rom-com she did, Anyone But You, which I haven't seen, profit-wise, that movie has profited after all expenses almost $50 million. So for a studio to look at something like that, and like, yeah, it's on that weird in between time between like Christmas and February, where there wasn't a lot coming out. But still, that movie, just like every week, there were loads of people going to see it. So that, and then you have Immaculate, which came out this past weekend, which I am going to talk to Movie Files about. I'm not sure if he saw it. I know he saw 2 of the other films that I do want to talk to him about. But Immaculate is Neon's highest opening weekend of all time, which is not a lot. It was like 5 million something. It wasn't, but that's like a very small indie horror film, which doesn't even have to worry about the budget because the budgets on that are so small. So if you take someone like Sydney Sweeney, who's clearly making studios tons of money, there's nothing that she should be worried about. She does not have to do season 3 of Euphoria. I think it would be better to wrap up the show at some point instead of just being like, oh, here's 1 and 2 and that's it. Because I think they did take a lot of time in developing those characters on that, and I think they did take a lot of time in mapping out where those characters' choices, where they're going to lead them. But yeah, so you have Sydney Sweeney who's doing that right now. You have Zendaya who's about to have Challengers come out in April after Dune. Both are going to be great successes for her. And then Jacob Elordi, obviously, after Priscilla, where he played Elvis, and the notorious Saltburn, no one's not hiring him. So I think at this point, if they're not going to, they shouldn't rush a season 3 if they're going to do it at all. I think that they know that people know who these characters are. They know the audience doesn't want bullshit. So if they're going to continue on, they need to do it in a time that works for everyone. And maybe that time will never come because, again, this is kind of like the new Hollywood stardom group that all came from this show. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just never did a season 3, which would be a shame for the show, but it's stuff like that happens. Okay, let's see here. We have Hunter. How are you doing, Hunter? Very nice to see you here. Yeah, I love seeing everyone having a great time here in the chat. Everyone's saying hi to each other. Let's see. Did y'all hear about Harvey Dent cast member for 2? I did not. So if you want to drop that in the chat, absolutely let us know. I'm gonna just check really quickly on my guest. I just want to make sure I know I sent him the link, but I just want to make sure. Let's see here. Okay, cool. In the meantime, I guess we can talk about everything else I saw, and then we'll get his opinion on these things. So we did see Love Lies Bleeding, which is the new A24 Kristen Stewart film. That is a film where if you watch the trailer, you would have no idea what the movie turns into. It is incredibly insane at the end of the film. Ed Harris is the villain. And this is not spoilers at all, but it is not just like, oh, it's a rom-com with two girls that fall in love with each other and one is into bodybuilding in the 80s or 90s. It is not that at all. Like that's the shallow premise. And it gets really crazy and wild. And I did genuinely like it. Except for the third act, I felt like they rushed through a lot of the plot premises that they had kind of given us in the beginning of the film. I really do genuinely appreciate Kristen Stewart as an actress now. I never really got her. I never really understood what the appeal was. But seeing her in this film, she sold me. I loved her in it. And maybe now that she's living more authentically, like maybe that's a reason. And, you know, she's not in some stupid franchise like Twilight. So it's good that she's being choosy with her roles. I think everyone in it was fantastic. I think the directing was really good. But again, that last act is just it was just so shallow. So that's kind of, I think I gave it 3.5 stars. Some people gave it 5. I don't know. I think 3.5 is a good solid number to give Love Lies Bleeding. I would check it out for sure if you are an A24 fan. And HBO is finally, they have a lot of the films on HBO Max right now. They have maybe like 12 to 15, I'd say. It's going to continue to grow and grow and grow to get the entire A24 collection, which I think is one of the smartest moves that they could have done. So I'm really excited about that. Let's see here. Hey, Tracy, haven't seen you since the Oscars. I know it's been a lot recently. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have Movie Files on, he was actually trying to be on the panel I did with Film Junk, Convicted Cinephile, and Cinematech. But scheduling reasons, it made things difficult. So that's why that did not happen. However, it's going to be here tonight. We're going to go on and on about the Oscars, but we definitely need to address it a little bit because he is so knowledgeable and so familiar with the Oscars. And I would just like want to have his opinion. And then we'll move on to newer films and 2024 releases, because that's kind of, I feel like everyone has moved on to, including me. Do you think that P. Diddy situation will affect any actors? Apparently, Cuba Gooding Jr. is involved in it. I think that the P. Diddy situation is, I think it kind of goes to show you that, you know, like, I feel like he's not, I mean, unless I'm wrong, I don't think P. Diddy is someone that people ever suspected that we're not in the industry. So I think that is kind of like eye-awakening for a lot of people. And now in hindsight, you know, we see footage with him and Justin Bieber, and there's, you know, it makes people feel very uncomfortable. So I don't know if it's going to affect actors. Like, that's kind of one of the points I was going to bring up when it came to some of the Nickelodeon stars that did not talk in the documentary. Because I felt like if some of the more popular ones, I feel like if they had spoken up, even having given a comment, it's not going to affect their careers, because I think that whole era, that whole group of people are on such a microscope at this point. No one's going to blame anyone for giving any comments on this. Miranda Cosgrove, who did not appear in the documentary, she did go on Instagram and she posted like a very vague quote, but it's kind of like, if you're a bad person, essentially, things are going to come out about you eventually. So it was kind of her way of being like, I support everyone in that doc and my fellow Nickelodeon cast members, without her actually making like a public statement, which I think is, you know, that's totally fine. I think people are allowed to do whatever they want to do. But I don't feel like it would tarnish anyone's careers if they did speak up, if they were not in the documentary. I did watch the full documentary. I don't know if you guys watched that whole doc. I know the whole Dan Schneider thing has been kind of, you know, whispering its way around Twitter for a very long time. And I had no idea about the Drake Bell stuff. I will say that was very eye-opening. But yeah, and that was all those shows were a different like different generation of Nickelodeon for me. Like, yes, I know Dan Schneider started all that, and like I loved all that. But a lot of the hardcore shows that like I was really into, he was not a part of, because if he started, I mean, the Amanda Bynes show, that was kind of like on my way out of Nickelodeon at that point. So I remember her being on all that, and I kind of actually thought a lot of her skits were very annoying, but I think that's just because of the age that I was, growing up at that point in time. But like anything else, like the Drake show, Drake and Josh, that was all while I was in high school. So I was not really watching Nickelodeon. I was watching MTV and VH1 and things like that. I was not focused on Nickelodeon at all. I feel like I probably even watched the Disney Channel longer than Nickelodeon, because I felt like Nickelodeon was really targeting that like 8-year-old, 6 to 8-year-old, 10-year-old demographic, where I feel like the Disney Channel really focused on tweens a lot. And so I feel like that's where that kind of, that's why I kind of fell out of the whole Nickelodeon thing at that point. But, I don't blame any actor for not speaking out about the documentary. It was, very enlightening. And I'm glad that like these stories are being told. And I think that, people are hopefully going to become accountable for things. But neither here nor there. Thank you for asking that question about the P. Diddy thing. I don't really, I'm the fortune teller of what's going to happen to people's careers. I don't think anyone's speaking up. I don't think anyone should have their careers tarnished because of that. Yes, Jason, the millennial, I was shocked that Across the Spider-Verse didn't win any Oscars. I'm sure we'll talk about that. I thought I was going to be shocked, but like in hindsight, I'm not shocked anymore. So we'll get into all of that because my guest is here, Movie Files. I'm very happy for him to join us today. So I'm going to add him to the stage. Hello.
Yo, what's going on? How you doing?
Good. I'm very happy to have you. I know there's like so many people that are excited that are here. And I'm glad we finally were able to make it work.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy to be back. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make the Oscar panel, which was so great. But I'm happy to be here with you today.
Oh, thank you so much. So we were talking about controversial stuff, and we're going to kind of get into more movie stuff and get away from that. But I was telling my channel, or the people in the chat at least, I was able to see 3 films this past week. I think you maybe saw 2 out of the 3. I don't know if you saw Immaculate, but I definitely want to talk about kind of like, what's going on this month in movies, as well as what's coming out. I guess we can start with Love Last Bleeding, because I kind of just went on a whole rant about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm excited to, I don't know if you'll repeat those thoughts, but I'm sure we'll get into it. But I was, when I initially saw it, it was, well, long story short, I was able to see it through a press screening. And it was a 2-hour delay. So it just goes to show you how excited I was to see it, because I waited in theaters with some fellow critics and we just kind of, talked and, waited 2 hours to see the film. So that just goes, it was unfortunate, but we got free popcorn and drinks and tickets to see other stuff. Either here or there, I was excited for it because I'm a big A24 fan, have been for quite a while, and I'm a fan of what's her name, Rose Glass, the director who did Saint Maud. Big fan of Kristen Stewart and Katie O'Brien, so it was a film that I was highly anticipating. And initially, after watching it, obviously being in theater for almost 4 hours to see it in total, I was a little kind of like, I was kind of torn, because if, as well, probably not spoil it, but for those who've seen it, the ending, I'm a person that, I can take a slow build. I can do, building up to something, but as long as you stick the landing, I can forgive some things. But the ending was a little, I'm still kind of torn on it. I've come to kind of think that it's, a little, I can appreciate some of the things they were going for. But prior to the ending, I was pretty satisfied with the character development, with the performances, the just like not knowing what to expect. I kind of compared it to like watching a Coen Brothers meets Quentin Tarantino film, because it was just like you didn't know what was going to happen next. And again, great performances. Katie O'Brien to me has been someone that's been kind of typecast in some of the roles we've seen her so far, with working on The Mandalorian and working in Marvel with Ant-Man Quantumanium. So I'm like, I'm hoping we can see what she can do as an actor. And she, to me, just completely stole the film. So she was great. Kristen Stewart's always great. And it was just as I say with every A24 film, never expect anything, expect the unexpected. And it was a film that definitely kept me on the edge of my seat with the visceral violence, the unpredictable love story that we got, the family drama that we got, and just the craziness that the film had. So I would say there's more positives than negatives, but that ending is still something that was it was swung for the fences in a very big way, literally.
Yeah, I think we're so on the same page with how we both felt about this film. I was so on board for I was on board the whole movie, to be honest. But I think when I
Yeah.
looked back about the film, there were a lot of plot points that we were given early on that were never really resolved, or like, you know,
100%
I
agree.
still don't even really know what the dad was involved in. Like, it's so vague, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that like some of those details and some of that could have been hashed out a lot further. But I have to say, I was so impressed by Kristen Stewart, and I thought, you know, maybe in a sense because she is being a much more authentic version of herself in this. She nailed it, and I loved it. And let's see what she does. I'm excited to see what she does moving forward. But I you know, I think, you know, you've noticed this as well too in the past maybe 2 years. A lot of directors are really playing with surrealism, and that was also in the forefront of this movie. Do you think that trend is going to continue? Because there's no spoilers for the chat, but like it's not even that big of a spoiler. But there is surrealistic things that happen towards the end.
For sure. I mean, if you've seen the trailer, you can get some of those sensibilities just from the trailer alone. So to answer your question, I think depends on the studio, depends on the director, but I think people are more open to the idea of experimentation, especially like auteur directors that try to, you know, put their points out there, and sometimes could be a little bit more on the nose than others. But I do think we're going to see a flourish or continuation of sorts of directors doing things that make the audience a little uncomfortable, makes the audience keep on their toes, and again go in to not anticipate tropes, because this film definitely, if you look at it, it's a film we've seen before in regards to a couple that are just attracted to each other, and you know, shit hits the fan and we got to see how things are resolved. And you know, it has those things that we've seen, but it's just all the little nuances and little details that sets itself apart and makes it unique in its own sense. And again, some of it works, most of it works, but some of it not entirely. But again, going back to your initial question, I do think we'll see a flourish of more directors having that more surrealism and just throwing you off a little bit.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad you said that too, because I'm kind of thinking the same thing. And I think that even if you take a film like Poor Things, I think the fact that movie is pretty. I know there's controversy with it, but for the most part, people really are open to that film, and people really love the movie. And that's one of the most surrealist films I've seen in a long time. And I've heard that Your Ghost is a part of this whole new Greek weird wave in cinema. So I think that that's kind of like going to be definitely a thing in the future moving forward.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of the future, I'm so excited to see more of Rose Glass's work, because to me, she has just so much great ideas. Even again, going back to Saint Maud, like I wasn't as high on that film as a lot of people were. I appreciate the things that she was pushing for, but I love how she puts her female characters who have been lead characters in both of her films so far, and just peels back the layers. They're flawed. They have, you know, obsessive personalities like Jackie and the character from Saint Maud. She has this kind of Cronenberg-ness to her that she explores the obsession with the body and like body horror. So I'm really excited to see like what she taps into next, because she's just like one of those directors that I'm like so in awe of and can't wait to see what she brings to the forefront.
No, I totally agree with you. I haven't seen Saint Maud, but I have been.
That is a
told to check
trippy
it out,
movie.
so.
It's very
Okay.
trippy. Yeah.
Cool. So I'll definitely.
This is
give it
almost,
a
it's
shot.
like a sequel, almost Love, Lies, and Bleeding is like almost like a sister sequel to that film. And when you see the film,
Really?
yeah. A lot of similarities.
No, I definitely have to check it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next film I want to talk about, and I'm not sure if you saw it yet. Did you see Immaculate?
Funny thing, right before we went live, I was in contact with one of the Neon PRs, and I was trying to see it last week. I just didn't have time, but they actually were nice enough to send me a link, so I'll be watching it tonight. So and I hope to enjoy it and see what the ending, because everyone's talking about the ending. So see what that ending's like, and think I kind of know what it's hitting at, but I'm gonna be checking it out tonight, and hopefully I enjoy it. But I would love to hear your
Yeah,
thoughts about it.
yeah. I think it's not something that we've never seen before.
Sure, sure.
Um, but I think the cinematography is actually unexpectedly really nice. It's very, very good.
Hmm.
And I think if you want to check boxes as far as what you want in a religious demon type of horror movie, I think it works well. It's to me, the film is not hokey.
Hmm.
And I know you keep hearing about the end. I'm not
Yeah,
without
yeah.
any spoilers. Without any spoilers, I think what Sydney Sweeney pulls off acting wise is
Hmm.
actually quite amazing. But
Good,
in the
good.
theater at the time, there were people laughing. But I think that was almost because
Mm.
people needed a release at some point.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so
That's my
when that,
reaction to when I'm uncomfortable or something like I like naturally laugh just to kind of
yeah,
off put the uncomfortableness of a situation. So yeah,
yeah. So it's kind of like if there's this like super uncomfortable moment,
yeah,
and it's the final end. Is it like gonna blow your mind? No, but is it
sure,
a
sure.
solid movie? I think so. I think I
Okay.
gave it 4 stars out of 5. But and that was really targeted just for the genre. Like I feel like,
Right,
and
right.
everyone rates their things on different scales. So I do always put that in perspective of like what the genre is trying to do. If it
Hmm. Hmm.
works for that specifically.
I'm glad to hear Sydney's grading it because I've been following her for quite a bit. I'm one of the few people that actually appreciate Euphoria, even though I know it comes with its own controversy. But she was one of the
I love it.
standout stars in that show to me, and I like
Yeah,
that she's kind of breaking out of the mold of of course, very attractive girl, and people kind of put her in a box. But I like that she's kind of breaking out of that box and doing things like this. And I think she produced this film, from what I understand.
yeah.
So I like that she's making moves, and I appreciate to hear that she's doing good as far as acting goes. So I'm excited to check it out.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I know it was kind of announced recently, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, but
Mhm.
how they are kind of postponing Euphoria season 3 indefinitely.
Yeah,
And it's like we have 3
mega
megastars
stars.
right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, and they're all filming stuff and they all want to do things.
Mhm,
And I think when
mhm.
Challenger comes out, which I'm really excited for, I
Same.
think that's going to even more elevate Zendaya.
Yeah.
So,
But if you're an executive at HBO, you're just biting at the bits to put all them on the screening. Because I can't think, I know it's happened before, but I can't think of another show that had such a rise in popularity in their stars come back to do a show. I can't think of
right.
anything that have grown, have become such bigger stars than what they were when the show last ended. And then to come back is almost, it's an impossible feat. So I hope, fingers crossed, that they can make a season 3. But they have went through a lot, losing one of their stars, obviously with
Yeah.
Agnes last year, and obviously, like you brought up, their popularity and their scheduling. So if they can make it happen, man, that'll be a miracle.
Yes. And I think it goes to show, because I've always felt this way, and I know you're a big fan of HBO content. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
like their casting department is incredible. Like they
spot on
nail
every
it.
time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Cool. So then the third film, which I did see your review on,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd love to talk about it. A smaller horror film. It's interesting that 2 of these films came in the same week. But Night
Yeah,
with the Devil.
yeah.
Um, Yeah, and anyone in the chat that hasn't checked it out, he just put out a great review, and I agree a lot with what he said. So what were your kind of like expectations, or did you have any like preconceived notions going in, and how did you feel after the film?
The only thing that I knew about the film, so I avoid the trailers, but I had heard about the hype from South by Southwest that it premiered at literally last year. And I've always been, in the last like 4 or 5 years, like when it comes to small independent films, and if I'm a fan of the genre, which is horror, and if I'm a fan of the cast, David Dastmalchian, and I'm like, you know what? I'm sold. I don't need to see anything. So I went in with just like, I'm hearing hype about it. So let me just go in and just put my hypeness aside and just take it in for what it is. And honestly, I've thoroughly enjoyed Late Night with the Devil. Similar to your comments on Love, Lies, and Bleeding, where some of the plots, some of the things they introduced, I wish were maybe more fleshed out, maybe explore more things. I love the idea of being in one setting, but I would have liked maybe 1 or 2 other settings to kind of flesh things out with certain characters and certain reveals. But overall, I just thought it was just really unique how they captured the found footage essence of the horror genre, which has been a trope for many, many years after the Blair Witch Project, but they made it fit into the narrative because it made you as an audience feel as though you were in the studio watching these crazy events unfold, or if you were watching it on television. So I love how they use the found footage and the practicality. I love old school practical effects that were used in the film, and it's just a creepy movie. And I love how every time we went to these commercial breaks, the film just kind of ratcheted up. It got a little bit more creepy, a little bit more unhinged, a little bit more unsettling, and I was, again, very entertained. It was a very, very well made film, regardless of the controversy, which I'm sure we might talk about. But I was very much pleased with Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah. For anyone in the chat, actually, let me just go to the chat real quick because I just want them to know that they're acknowledged. Yes, Tim Morrill, always happy to have you here. Thank you so much for stopping by. And then Cal L. Daly, which I think said hi earlier. Immaculate seems to be thriving off of religious outrage marketing, but reading a bit about it, it sounds more science fiction than. Yeah, it is more science fiction, I would say. It just takes place in a nunnery, if you think about it, I guess. Immaculate was a fine film. The View with Drew, thank you so much for stopping by. Willie's Movies says Late Night with the Devil was a great one. And let's see. Late Night with the Devil was frightening and maybe should be viewed on TV. Well, I'm glad he said that because I was kind of thinking how interesting that experience would be. Hello, Eraserhead. Thanks so much for joining us. I kind of felt like maybe if you watch it on a TV at home, it might actually be creepier because if you watch late night television in general, you're watching it at home.
Right.
So that would be interesting to kind of see how it plays.
Because that's right. You saw it in theaters, correct?
Yeah.
I got you. Because I saw it at home for the first time. So interesting.
Okay.
Interesting dynamic there. Yeah.
Oh.
I totally agree with you that it does kind of create a sense. And I'm someone that I like to set the mood when I watch a horror film. So I made sure it was literally late at night. I watched like at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, lights off, to get the mood. So it did kind of create that kind of atmosphere. So I'm curious, how was your experience with it being in the theaters? Was it a packed crowd?
It was a very filled crowd. Everyone was really into it. I know I have a fellow YouTuber friend, Tyler Wolf, where he had the exact opposite experience where everyone in his theater was just really loud and talking, and it was bad. But you can't really, it's like you can't predict that at certain times or at certain points. But for us, it was everyone was really glued in, and I because they do the aesthetics so well of making it feel like you're watching a late night show. Like it's very Dick Cavett to me. And I felt like if I was watching this at home on my couch, I might be a lot more creeped out because I felt like there was always this thing in my brain. It's like, well, I'm watching a movie that's trying to do found footage.
Right.
But I wouldn't say that like ruined the experience for me at all. Like as an experiment though, I would like to watch it at home. And I agree with you about how certain things weren't as fleshed out. And if you're mentioning the location, I'm assuming the woods stuff is what you're.
Yeah. Which is actually, if people do rabbit hole deep dives into some, I don't want to certain groups that people are alleged to be a part of, that's actually a real life like location that people of certain status go to once a year. So yeah.
Yeah, I immediately went to YouTube after I saw the film, and I was like hoping that people were putting out a lot of content, but it was like I realized it was just too soon for that to be up yet. But I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of content involving that stuff, which is gonna be really interesting. But David Dastmalchian, I mean, my goodness, he can carry a film.
Yeah.
I loved him as Polka Dot Man so much, and that was one of my like moments that I was so sad that his character was taken away so quickly, But yeah, as far as the controversy goes, and we'll talk about it briefly. People are upset that they're like anytime the film tries to make like a commercial break, there's essentially like a card, like a TV card, like graphic that they used to do all the time. And the ones that were used in this film were generated by AI. My personal opinion is kind of aligned with yours. I don't think people should be boycotting the film, which I've seen being a huge thing. I think that indie filmmakers potentially made a mistake in choosing to do that. I know that they said that their graphics people, still worked on those pieces. And I also understand the argument where it's like people are like, well, if you do that, then the next thing you know, it's a whole backdrop, and then it's a whole this, and it just keeps escalating. I don't think that. I think that's okay. Like right now, I think everyone's working out the kinks in Hollywood when it comes to AI, and I think that that's like an honest mistake. And I don't think they were trying to be disrespectful or not pay people. I mean, I can't. I don't even know what the budget was for this movie. I don't know if you do, but I'm sure it was not a lot.
Yeah, I would imagine maybe a $2 million production budget, if that. I'll see if I can find it here.
Which is good. I mean, my goodness, I think it already made over 5. Maybe 2. It made it make 2 something, but it was a really big release because Shudder doesn't really release their films in theaters ever.
Right. According to internet, reportedly shot for less than $2 million was the production budget.
So they made their money back essentially, which is great. And it hasn't even premiered on Shudder, I don't think, unless I'm mistaken.
No, April 19th is the premiere date.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So I mean, they're definitely going to make some type of profit off of it, and it goes to show, like, I mean, they used practical effects for the entire film essentially. So I think we need to stop.
Yeah, it's like you mentioned, and like you said, I think that there was no intent to be, one of the Hollywood execs like, let's just cut corners, not hire people. It was just experimentation. When they shot this film, it was 2 years ago, where again the conversation AI was definitely in the forefront, but it wasn't as prominent and as as visceral and as important as after the strikes, when a lot of people lost their jobs and so forth and whatnot. So yeah, I didn't take it as like a intention to hurt art or to affect the creative process, but it is unfortunate that some people have taken a stance of just like, I don't care if it's 1 frame, 2 frames, 3 frames, I'm not going to support anything with AI. But I think it's a case-to-case basis, and I think there's a lot more nuance with this situation than it is with something like Marvel. Last year with Secret Invasion, their whole theme or the intro to that show was generated by AI, and it's just like Marvel compared to AFC Films and Shudder. Like, you guys have money upon money. You can print money at this point. You can't hire artists to make your intro, so something like that is completely different from what we got with this situation. So, but
yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. That was definitely one of the biggest. I mean, the show in general, I heard, was very lackluster.
Terrible
Secret
show.
Invasion.
Yeah, it is really bad.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, they've never admitted to it, but I mean, when I saw the Marvels, I thought it was an AI script. I don't care whose names you put on that script. They might have signed off and said, sure, like, you can put my name on this, and it was an AI script because it was not an actual movie script, just like Madden Web. So I think that there has probably been a lot more still AI inserts in big budget movies that we've just thought, like, it's not like we've caught on to it initially. We're like, oh, that's AI. I've just been very disappointed. And now it's a big coincidence. Oh, we've been disappointed with big blockbuster movies for the past 2 years. Oh, I wonder why,
Yeah.
So
100%.
Let's see here. It was creepy with me because I was literally the only person in the theater. I would hate that.
Yeah. That would be, especially like, at least when you're in a home watching a kind of creepy, scary movie, you can control the environment, right? Let me turn the lights on. Let me take a little break. When you're in the theater, you just kind of like, what is that? Is someone walking in here? Did I see something? All your imagination goes crazy when you're by yourself. I've never seen a horror film by myself in a theater before. So that would be, I don't know. I might have to test it out to see how creepy that is.
No, and that's actually even scarier too, because it's the whole premise is like you're in the audience.
Yeah.
So if he's in the audience by himself, oh my God, that's horrifying.
That's funny.
Usually the recommendation is to watch a film in the theater, but this is an interesting reverse perspective. Maybe I should wait on Late Night with the Devil. I mean, maybe everything I said is not gonna ruin the movie for you. I just think it might just be scarier at home. But I know Movie Files, I think you've talked about how you're curious about how it played in the theater. So
Yeah.
I think it's one of those that it's probably fine regardless what you do at that point, which
Right.
I know I normally am always like, go to the theater, but
Yeah.
so the AI use in the film doesn't bother me much. I think there is a pass that we can give for very low budget films as opposed to studios that have money to pay for the art to be made. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Awesome. So now that we've talked about those movies, March and February were kind of slowish, I'd say. I mean, there have
Mhm.
obviously been stuff that we've talked about, which has been cool.
Yeah.
April seems to be the real big turnaround. I know
Mhm.
next weekend's Godzilla not Kong, Godzilla versus Kong. I was Godzilla minus Kong, which Godzilla minus one, which we all know is going to just be like a popcorn
Yeah.
crazy nothing. I mean, it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Probably for
Yeah.
sure. But I feel like
Yeah.
April is kind of when things start to turn around because
Mhm.
I know Civil War is something I'm heavily interested in,
Yeah.
as well as
Yes.
challenges and things like that. So I would love
Mhm.
to hear your thoughts on like what you're kind of looking forward to in the nearish future.
Yeah, let me pull up a list here. So yeah, some of those films you just mentioned, you mentioned earlier, Challengers. I'm gonna be actually seeing that on Monday, which I'm super excited for because that was one of my most anticipated films of the year. Big Zendaya fan. Luca Guadagnino is one of my favorite directors, so I'm really excited to see that. So that's definitely on the radar. What else do we have? Monkey Man. I'm hearing some great things about that. I think
Yeah.
next week I'm really excited. I think I'm seeing Challenges on Monday, Monkey Man on Wednesday. And then there's another film that I was pretty excited about. I'm just trying to pull up the list. So yeah, to your point, we're not only getting some great independent films that I'm really, really excited for, but then you do throw in a mix something, the big blockbuster films to kind of take the mind off of the more heavy stuff. So let me see. The First Omen. There's something tells me it's not going to be a good movie, but for some reason those trailers for The First Omen has really caught my attention, especially the first one, when it showed like when everything is in reverse and the choice of music and kind of the imagery they had in the trailer. And I think her name is Neil Free, if I'm not mistaken, the young lady that plays the main actress in the First Omen. She was in a TV show called The Servant by M. Night Shyamalan, and there was like 4 seasons of that show, and she's amazing. I think she first cut her teeth in acting when she was in Game of Thrones. She played one of the Lannisters' kids, Jamie and Cersei's kids, and she died within like a couple minutes of the show. Well, not the first season, but later in the season. Spoiler alert. But she's fantastic as an actress. So I'm really excited to see her continue to go down this path of darkness in her genre choices of being in horror. So First Omen, Monkey Man, Civil War. Oh, that's the other film that I'll be seeing next week is Civil War. And I am an Alex Garland fanatic, from, of course, him writing 28 Days Later to directing Ex Machina and Annihilation, which I love. And I'm one of those people that liked what he was going for in Men. It was definitely an out there movie, very crazy film, but I liked a lot of the stuff he was trying to go for. And he did a show on FX a couple years ago called Devs, which is one of my favorite sci-fi shows in the last like decade or so. So I am so hyped, and the buzz that's been generated from that film is right up my alley. So yeah, I mean, there's just and I'm looking at it now. Abigail, no horror film that I'm really excited for. The Ungentlemanly Welfare with Guy Ritchie, with the great cast they have there. So you hit it on the head. This is a really great month for films. Like I said, small, big, and everything in between.
Yeah, there's a couple things that you just said, which I definitely want to touch on. First of all, with Challengers, there's a guy in it that I kept seeing in the trailers. He's like one of the main guys, and I kept being like, where do I recognize him from? I can't place it. And then I just realized who it was today, and it was the guy that played Riff in Spielberg's West Side Story.
West Side Story,
I
yep.
remember, yes, and I remember after seeing Spielberg's West Side Story, it was an instant to me like this guy's going to be a superstar. Like he just had so much charisma on screen in that role, and sometimes it takes people a little bit longer than others to kind of have that instant success. But I feel like him, starring with Zendaya, I mean that is definitely nothing to scoff at for sure, and I think he's moving in the right direction.
Mike Fest, Mike Fest, I think. Yeah.
But yes. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it. If it's Feist or Feist or
Yeah.
it's like the band Feist too. I never knew if it was Feist. It was like either way. Yeah, that guy is great. So I'm really excited to see how he pulls off this role. Monkey Man, I love Dev Patel. I'm really excited to see this for sure. And I don't even if it's trying to be a John Wick knockoff, I don't even think that that's what I would call it. I think it's influenced and it's doing its own thing. And it's like, oh, well, let's be influenced by some of the best choreography you can see and editing and all that stuff. So I'm excited for that. But when it comes to Civil War, I think like Ex Machina has always been one of my favorite movies of all time.
So good. Yeah.
It is just brilliant. And I think that Alex Garland has definitely, he's proven himself time and time again. And I remember when this trailer came out and people were so hung up on the fact the premise is that Texas and California join together. And in my perspective, I'm kind of like, I know that sounds insane. However, like Alex Garland is a smart person. Like he's written really intelligent scripts. There's going to be a reason for that. So like, let's just watch it and find out together, A lot of people are just naysaying it. Like, oh, this is just bullshit. Like there's no way this would ever happen. Like, but like, who's making this movie? Because he's really phenomenal. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely high on my list for sure. So yeah, April's going to be, I think, a really interesting year. And A24 again, just
they said last year that they want to dive more into maybe bigger IPs, and I think this one last year with Beaux Afraid was their most expensive film, and then I think Civil War might have overdone that as far as budget goes. So it's going to be interesting to see them moving forward. Of course, we're still going to get the small indies, but then it's going to be interesting to see them kind of branch out and do bigger budgeted stuff and see if they can still keep that grittiness and kind of rawness from what they do with their more smaller films. So I'm an A24 fan, and I'm really excited for the rest of this year. And like another one too, like so those two that are kind of like not as heavy but still fun genre films, the action film with Guy Ritchie, and then a horror film with Annabelle or Anna Gale. I can't remember. Can't remember the name of it, but the vampire movie with the little girl ballerina.
That
so I'm excited for that.
Is like
Abigail.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Abigail. That's more of like campy horror for sure.
Which I'm here for. Which I'm here for. I like a good jokes mixed in with some blood and guts.
Yes, and I think that actress that they chose, the one from Lisa Frankenstein.
Catherine Newton. Catherine Newton is a really fun actress. I thought that she was miscast in Ant-Man, but everything else I've seen her in, she just fits right in like a shoe. So she's someone I really, really enjoy seeing her in movies.
Yeah, and I think she kind of does really fit that camp horror well. We have 100%. Mia Goth as like Scream Queen, Mia Goth, and then we have her as being like the light side of horror.
Did you see her in was it Freaky? Was that the name of it with her and Vince Vaughn?
Oh yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
I had a really good time with that.
That was fun. And Vince Vaughn was really fun in that too. Yeah, that was a good combination. And I did like Lisa Frankenstein. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. That's still a newish type of movie. I
haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it. Was on the watch list. I missed out. Well, I don't even think they had a screening for it, but I think when it comes out on VOD, which I think is this week, I'm going to try to take a look at it because I've heard some pretty good things about it.
Yeah, I would say for me, the first act, I think takes a little bit of, it takes a little bit longer to get its momentum going. And then once it really picks up steam, then it really takes off. And I think that's where it really succeeds. And I think for Zelda Williams, I think that like as a first time director, I think that was a really well done film.
Pretty good outing. It's good to hear. Yeah. Like, I'm excited for it. And I've heard pretty good things about it. So I'm really excited to see what it's all about.
Yeah. Here we are. Annihilation is one of the greats. That sound. Yeah, the sound design was really good.
So good. So good.
A24 Civil War will scare the hell out of me. Yeah. We're all anticipating. I have no idea what to expect that movie. So I'm kind of just going to
I'll be seeing it Thursday. I think I feel kind of spoiled after seeing Godzilla -1. It's like it's kind of hard to go back from like going to like a top 5-star restaurant and then going to like something in the McDonald's. Which again, not to insult the Godzillas, because I have fun with them, but it's just like I feel spoiled after seeing Godzilla -1 and to now go to like buddy cop Godzilla and Kong running on the beach together. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Tone.
That's yeah, I can't. I kind of feel the same way.
Yeah.
Have you seen the teaser for Alien Romulus? It looks so good. What are your thoughts? Because I think it looks phenomenal.
Listen, I'm gonna try to keep it short, but I am a huge Fede Alvarez fan. I think what he's done with Don't Breathe, I think his Evil Dead 2013 is the best Evil Dead in the franchise, in my opinion. I think he's just incredible. So I think he's going to do it again. I think what he did, and not that seeing Evil Dead was like a dead franchise, but what he was able to revive with that franchise, I think he's going to do the same thing with Alien, which I don't think Alien is in the hole, but there have been some hits and definitely some misses. But I think he's going to bring his sensibilities to the franchise, and I love the cast. And apparently there's a scene that is going to just gross everyone out involving the chest burster scene, which is not famous for the first Alien, but it's going to be at another part of someone's body that alien's going to come out, which I've heard is pretty gruesome, pretty crazy. So I'm really here for it. It takes place between Alien and Aliens, and I just cannot wait.
And that, to me, I think that trailer, like, that's how you edit a trailer,
100%. Yep, 100%.
But I watched a trailer for something recently. Oh, you know what it was? It was the trailer for the new Star Wars show. And
the Acolyte.
Yeah, and I felt like all the fight sequences, and they did this with another one of their trailers too, and it's just you're focusing on the fight choreography like way too long to the point where you start analyzing it, and it's like then it takes you out of it, and then it's like fake, and it's not. It should not be. It should be much faster cuts, and like that's what they did with the Alien trailer, and like the fight sequences were spot on. The editing was just. Really, it gave you that momentum and the whole
set the mood and set the tone and let you know that we're isolated, closed off in this ship, and there's face huggers and xenomorphs to take this crew down, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's almost like when you watch fight choreography in the Acolyte trailer, it almost like you're watching like behind the scenes footage because you're waiting for a cut of like excitement, and it just yeah.
I'm hopeful for the Acolyte because I like the people involved. The creator of Russian Doll is the showrunner, and I'm always down to see Trinity and kicking some ass, and even the young talent like Amanda Seyfried, who's the lead of the show. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that it might be like an Andor situation.
Yes. No, I mean I'm definitely hopeful too. I'm not trying to be like overly critical. It was just one of the things that I felt about.
Yeah.
The
I agree
fights.
with you. Yeah.
What's your thought on Alien? We just talked about that. August feels like a long wait now. Can't come any sooner. Yeah, we're all pumped for it. Do you think New Alien will be a rehash of the first Alien? I don't mind. To be frank, as long as it delivers, works, and is done right, it could be good because it's directed by Fede Alvarez. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that director actually.
Yeah, no, like I said, Evil Dead 2013, Evil Dead. He did The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the American version, with Rudy Mara, and Daniel Craig. He did Don't Breathe, the 2015 horror film, and I don't think he did the sequel, but he was a executive producer. So yeah, he's gnarly. He's just one of those directors that takes it to just like the next level, and he doesn't like do it to just have shock value, but it's just like it's meant to set the mood. And yeah, like the brutalness and bloodiness of 2013 Evil Dead is a perfect example of that. So yeah, he's one of my favorites for sure.
That's awesome. Lisa Frankenstein is going to be on Peacock.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool.
Acolyte trailer did a re-edit. It lagged and it didn't have any energy to it. Yeah, so I think we're all kind of like still hopeful. I think it's kind of, especially when you see that Alien trailer. I think, it's hard to really compare. I like the tone and atmosphere of the teaser. It sets specific mood you need for an Alien film. Yeah, exactly. Actually, this is a really good question because I think it was initially supposed to just be streaming, but now I think it's getting a theatrical release.
Yeah, I think they took lessons from Predator that they released on Hulu and saw how big that was for the platform, but also how people were like, this would have done really well at the cinema. So I think initially Romulus was supposed to be a Hulu release, but they're like, why are we leaving money on the table? Let's put Alien on the big screen, because they also have an Alien show coming out, I think next year on FX by Noah Hawley, which is like its own separate Alien thing. So if you're an Alien fan right now, we're eating good. We got a movie, got a show coming out. So yeah, I'm really happy for the Alien stuff that we got coming out in next few years.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I think it's refreshing. I liked a lot of aspects of Prometheus, but there were also things about it that disappointed me.
Yeah.
You know, my biggest thing I think is the trailers for Prometheus were always, they keep putting on the screen like questions will be answered, and then the film kind of just gave us more questions. And then
Who are the engineers? Where do they come from? Yeah. I did the one, and I'm one of those people that do kind of stand by Prometheus and a little bit for Alien Color, because I'm such a sci-fi fan, and I like those existential questions of like, where do we come from? How do we come to be? And Ridley tries to dive into that, but yeah, like you said, he leaves more questions than answer. But I thought Michael Fassbender was so great as David, and Naomi Pace as kind of the Ripley version of that story was really good. So there's this, Idris Elba was in it, so and Charlize Theron. It's a really great cast, some good ideas. It just wasn't, the execution could have left more to be desired for sure.
Yeah, and the self schmishmortion scene was amazing. So I mean, I had never seen anything like that on the screen, and that was really, really well executed. So I guess, we're starting to wrap up here. I gotta ask you, and I don't want to get into a whole conversation because we're getting towards the end here, but it was revealed. I'm not really upset about this fact at all. I'm nervous about the film, but I just want to see a trailer at this point, which we're going to get in April, and that's Joker 2. Being announced that it has over 15 songs, and it's a jukebox musical. I think sometimes people are hesitant about musicals because they've been scarred because the one time they saw a musical, it sucked, or they just saw the wrong one, or, I get it. I get how they can be cheesy and stupid, but there are also so many amazing ones. Classics, it does seem like this is taking the Moulin Rouge route. Which I kind of think might be more digestible for moviegoers. And if they have a banging trailer, then I'm not as concerned, but I'm still nervous. So, and I'm a musical person, like theater person. Like I appreciate all of it, but I'm nervous myself.
So it's one of my most anticipated films of the year, because of curiosity is just killing me and killing us all. Knowing the fact that it wasn't intentionally made to be a sequel, as far as Todd Phillips saying it's a one and done, same with Joaquin Phoenix. I am someone that believes in the artistic decisions by Joaquin Phoenix, that he wouldn't do anything if he didn't feel like it had something to say and something to kind of bring to the forefront. So I'm leaning on his expertise and his opinion and his choice of doing the film. And, I didn't like Gucci, but I feel like Lady Gaga is an actress from Star is Born, a couple episodes she did in American Horror Story, that she's a really, really fine-tuned actress. So you take these great actors with this premise of a musical. Like I think musicals can be hit or miss. Modern musicals, I'm a big fan of like kind of the classic musicals. But I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work in the film. I'm someone that believes that the whole idea of the musical is going to be more or less in their head, more than like actually seeing people like break down and dance and song. I think it's going to be all kind of, whether they're getting their dosages of medicine or they hit their head on something, it's just kind of more trippy than like matter of fact. So I'm intrigued to see what they do. I know that the people they hired for the choreographed dancing and songs are like some of the best in the Hollywood. And of course, you have Lady Gaga, who is an artist herself. So the trailer's going to say it all. I think the trailer's going to be the make or break for some people. I'm going to see it regardless. I might honestly, it's going to be kind of hard to avoid the trailer, but I'm just so curious to see how like they approach their first time, letting people know what they're getting into. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that it's going to be something special. Hopefully, I don't think it's going to make the money that the first one did, just because of the musical aspect. But I'm really, really interested to see what they got up their sleeve.
Yeah. I feel exactly the same way as you. And and it'll be interesting too because we'll have that in September, I believe. Is it September?
October.
So we'll have that in October, and then we'll have Wicked in December.
Wicked,
So
December, another WB.
And I've been kind of predicting that Wicked will probably do Wonka numbers just because of the time of year. Not close to $1 billion, but it'll do solid box office numbers, and it is anticipated. I think a lot of people don't realize that a Wicked movie has been in the works since. I mean, when I was 21, I was interning at the Weinstein Company, and that was like on the radar that they were trying to make Wicked into a movie. Weinstein wasn't specifically, but like that was in talks, and it took like 15 years after that, at least. So, I think it's going to do solid Wonka numbers, I would say.
I agree.
But I'm so happy that you were able to join me tonight. Thank you so much.
Yeah, me too.
I'm going to add your letterbox if you want me to your description.
That's cool.
And anything else you want to, I can add. What else? What do you have on your radar coming up for your channel?
Yeah, well, listen, it's always great to come on here. Hopefully we can set something up again, maybe talk about some of those films that we just discussed in today's stream. But you guys can find me here on YouTube talking about movies and shows. Right now I'm covering Invincible every week, one of my favorite shows right now. I'm living my kid dream is being rehashed with X-Men 97's back on TV, which has been fantastic. But like we talked about this month, Kong versus Godzilla later this week, and a lot of things to look forward to, some reactions I'll have for Civil War and Challengers next week. So if that sounds like something you guys enjoy, check me out here on YouTube and on TikTok while it's still unbanned, Instagram, X, and Letterboxd as well.
Yeah, I will definitely be looking forward to your reactions next week because you're able to see them so much earlier than everyone else. So and those are very anticipated for me. So I can't wait to hear your thoughts on that. Thanks so much to everyone in the chat. Thanks so much for stopping by. We'll see you all next time.